life is hard enough, and it used to be, sometimes still is, that for a quarter, you could forget your troubles for a while. Simplicity and a pursuit of momentary happiness, all for a quarter. A quarter of happiness, if you will, could sometimes be the cure for whichever upheaval that was shaking your foundation. In nearly every local peanut shell floor covered pizza shop, resting in the corner, sitting in all her glory, was the Neo Geo arcade machine, stuffed to the brim with classics and quarter-guzzling games. Each game crafted to be just hard enough to take all your parents' hard-earned money. The towering machine was filled with numerous titles that deserved their own attention and were the building blocks for many of today's games. My quarter of happiness was a side-scrolling adventure filled with action, exquisite sound, platforming, effects, a plethora of guns, quirky humor mixed together on a masterfully sprite-illustrated canvas known as Metal Slug. This will be a quick sip retrospective review mixed with a letter of appreciation to the oft-ignored title, though thankfully not forgotten. Plenty of gamers have fond memories of the machine and Metal Slug. You'd be hard-pressed to find this series in many people's top 10s outside of their dedicated fanbase. But not every game needs to be at the top to be appreciated or have an impact. The intricately detailed, intense, albeit rather humorous game franchise stretches over multiple titles and a few different genres in later years, but its best times were in the coin-op and arcade days of yore. We'll be focusing on just the first entry in the series. I'd like to attempt to get videos out on a more consistent basis. Is this pixel-perfect masterpiece worth a quarter of your time? Do games need to have an unseen depth to be appreciated? Let's see.
Metal Slug!
Metal Slug Super Vehicle 001, or Super Vehicle 1, was the first entry into a decade-spanning saga of 7 main entry games, 2 remakes and around 10 spin-offs as of this video. The creators of the game, the former Nazca Corporation bought by SNK, wanted to make a simple run-and-gun game with a simple control scheme. As I was booting up the game for the first time in probably well over a decade, I didn't realize that there were difficulties available to me. Me knowing the sense of satisfaction and triumph achieved from overcoming these immense challenges in games. Like the smell of a hug from your first love, the game enraptured you. Okay, yeah, that's a little much. It's more akin to picking up your first baseball mitt, worn in and fit right. A breath of fresh nostalgia. It didn't overstay its welcome. Just instead of a joystick and arcade buttons was an Xbox controller on my PC with millions of times of computing power of the original machine. Like good memories, though, that slip away without warning, the game was over. 25 minutes and I was finished. And in one sitting. Was it always this easy? Well, no. 18 deaths and a decent high score felt great, but didn't capture that initial high. There was something missing. It dawned on me later there was no risk. It's because I wasn't spending literal quarters on it, and there was no external pressure to beat this game fast. No monetary consequence if I failed too many times. We could change that really fast. Each continue, I decided to donate a quarter to charity through each difficulty. It may not seem like a lot, and for a lot of people it isn't. But do know this, as someone that has worked with charities over the past few years on Twitch, we've raised, thankfully, over $50,000. Every dollar does matter, or every quarter, in this case, does have an effect. I will leave a link up if you are interested and want to also help out, but otherwise, this won't be a thing we always do. But for now, it's okay. One thing about Metal Slug that most people don't know, there is actually a story, without reading word for word the story description in the Metal Slug Anthology game manual. 2 opposing armies are at war. The regular army, who are tasked with peacekeeping and anti-terrorism, versus the rebellion, who want to change the world's government to be led by a military-controlled one. After nearly being defeated, the regular army responds by developing highly advanced tanks and weaponry called Metal Slugs. The rebellion catches winds of the plan and steals all the Metal Slugs, crushing all hopes of victory for the regular army. All hope, except for Marco and Tarma, in a desperate last-ditch counterattack to take out the rebellion, either recover or destroy every last Metal Slug. Simply put, the Metal Slugs are advanced weaponry that were stolen by the bad guys, and usually take the form of the bosses you end up fighting, or the random tanks you occupy. but more on that shortly. The game is broken up into 6 missions that take your characters, Marco or Dharma if you're player 2, across a wide variety of locales and battlefields, with the entire goal of running to the right of the screen to find and take out the boss on that mission, all the while in hot pursuit of the main villain, General Donald Morden. Mission 1, you're dropped in the jungles where it feels there was some massive battle that had taken place on the amazing background detail. The dance of the hand animation sprites in pixel art is immaculate in its execution, and to this day gives Metal Slug its distinct charm. Each mission you're dropped with a pistol and 10 grenades. There is no life bar, because if you are hit by one thing, you die. But you do have 3 lives that disappear faster than people's New Year's resolutions. Mission 1 is pretty straightforward. You're introduced to many of the standard enemies without being overwhelmed, like you will be later, as well as some of the classic weapons and the POWs you save throughout the campaign, who give you everything from weapons, power-ups, and literally anything the devs can think of. Mission 1, you'll find the heavy machine gun, flame shot, and your metal slug tank, which will be the only way to avoid getting one-shot, especially since literally everything in the game can one-shot you. The game was originally designed to be sort of tank run and gun before switching to a human-focused one. Each weapon does have a finite amount of ammo. Most of the time you'll be getting a new one right around the corner though when you run out. And then you're back to your basic pistol. The first boss is a derelict plane with just a main cannon that cycles through about 3 or 4 different attacks, which are all pretty easily avoided with a decent amount of time given to avoid or learn the pattern. The main gun is a mostly stationary target though. My first playthrough again after all this time was rough to say the least, especially learning how to use the Xbox controller instead of the classic joystick and buttons. Many stupid deaths from missing a jump or not realizing the destructible environment will kill you. The memorable sounds and character antics brought me back, especially the announcer who declared each new weapon you picked up.
Heavy machine gun. Shot. Rocket launcher. Shotgun.
Mission 2 takes you along what appears to be a war-torn London. Some of the great moments are the bridge and the boat encounter, the random rooftop railway mini-boss, and the introduction of the main antagonist aboard his massive plane inside of a factory. Great boss fight, dodging missiles, using the train's cars, platforms, and some BS with him getting saved by another plane last minute. Something that I hope you've noticed by this point in time, this series does not take itself that seriously. From the over-the-top bosses, gadgetry, to the vibrant slew of characters seen strewn throughout the foreground and background. Mission 3. This mission and I have a history, and I don't like it. This mission introduced verticality to the game as you climb up the icy cliffs, jumping from side to side and avoiding snowballs, and your death below. This mission is still probably why I'm terrible at all platformers. I'm assuming this layer of difficulty is where many people had to use multiple continues and quarters, especially at shirtless heavy machine gun wielding mini-boss guy.
The home to mommy. Come on, boy. The home to mommy. Come on, boy. Come on, boy. The home to. Come on, boy. No!
The final boss of this mission can only be fought from above, as you chuck grenades and shoot down while jumping and avoiding mines and the massive cannon. If you're noticing a trend here, yes, they all pretty much have a massive cannon. Least favorite level, and I can guarantee you I didn't beat this back in the day without a roll of quarters. The difference between medium and hard was notable, but not too steep of a change. I'm competent in most games, but there were moments in hard mode where I absolutely felt like a noob, especially with the increased enemy boss and vehicle health, and the amount of enemies that spam more grenades. The pixel-perfect hitboxes were no joke. Mission 4 is the shortest mission, but really latches onto the idea of the foreground and the background, or the top layer and the bottom layer. Especially in the last boss, which is a pair of tanks where one sits on the top layer and then another one sits on the bottom layer. One thing of note here is this is where the bullet and grenade and knife span become atrocious. Without getting the tank early on, which is easily missed, especially if you blow up the red barrel in the house before the Warzone entrenchment, you will definitely start to notice a little bit of the BS of the game. The 5th mission and 6th mission, which is the final mission, are just BS central. You will lose your character multiple times, and a hail of missile fire, barrage of knives, fighter planes, bombs, and more knives and bombs. Shockingly, I just realized that most of the soldiers don't have guns. They just throw grenades at you. Or knives. I'm not sure how the rebellion was winning. The most BS occurred on the final boss, that one guy from earlier and the leader of the rebellion. He flies in a rather underwhelming helicopter that floods the screen with bombs and tracking missiles, which I struggled to get that pattern down. My last playthrough on Very Hard, I went on with confidence. I felt I had patterns down, and the know-how to get through the game. With little to no continues, I was wrong. Very Hard, as its name implies, was not to be taken lightly. Not only do the enemies come at you with a vengeance, unlike anything you have seen before, but most attacks are faster, the timing between attacks is quicker, and there's literally just more projectiles in general, on top of the massive increase in health. It was my longest playthrough, clocking in around 35 minutes as opposed to 25 to 28 minutes. I did better in a lot of areas, but Mission 3 and the final mission put me right back in my place. Well, one mode was missing, as you noticed. Easy was a blast. Felt like a god. A demigod. Enemies melted and were crazy conservative with the weapons. But now we have the entire collection, so let's see the total. The first playthrough took me about 18 continues, the second 14, third 11, fourth around 6, totaling around $11.50 if you count quarters. Like I said, I will leave a link if you all would like to donate to the same cause. I won't do this every time, but it did feel fun. I'm not too interested in doing any death lists or hit lists, and frankly, I'm not interested in doing challenge runs at all. Okay, that's a lie. But I think this will bleed into some sort of challenge run in the next Metal Slug or shorter game once I get around to it. So where does that leave us? All the little details in the art, the pitch-perfect soundtrack, the tight controls really deserve their time in the sun. Metal Slug didn't need to be any deeper than it already is to be appreciated though. It's an action movie. It's John Wick, Die Hard, Kelly's Heroes, 80s and 90s muscle-bound actions that fulfills its need to be fun. There are some things that need that deep level of magnification. But when life's complicated, some of the simplest pleasures are the most fulfilling. Not everything needs symbolism, and not everything needs lofty dissertations. Is this worth a quarter of your time, though? This simplistic masterpiece doesn't try to be something it's not. It knows what it is. A simple run-and gun with many over-the-top Miyazaki-esque designs. Supposedly this game's art style was heavily influenced by Miyazaki films of Studio Ghibli, but I couldn't find concrete proof of that, even though you could definitely see it. All the positives of this game are that you get to experience the artwork, the clean animation, the humor, which only get better as the series goes on. The game is short and was designed to be beaten in less than half an hour, but for a couple of quarters, it's well worth the investment. I'm not saying go find a Neo Geo machine somewhere to get the full experience, but that wouldn't be a terrible thing, would it? Metal Slug is a game from a bygone era, with fantastic co-op that strikes a great balance of being challenging without requiring your entire week to complete. I had great memories with this franchise, and hopefully in the future we see its return to its former glory in some fashion. Hopefully though, I remember to bring some quarters. I'm trying some new things here, and hopefully you took something from this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more trips down memory lane. Thanks again to our patrons who make these videos possible. If you would like to support and get videos a day early before they release, please click the link below. Catch you next time.